Hello, everyone. Mr. Within would like to talk about a certain reality in the human experience, and it is the reality of, you could say perhaps, a student or a being who is in a certain condition in life where the way the environment is confronting them, they are questioning the whole thing. They're becoming curious to that extent. For example, there have been stories of many students around many universities around the world being under pressure because there's a very unknown terrain, and it seems that university is just like giving weapons to people and telling them to run into battle. And who knows who's going to survive, in that competitive world. But you begin to see that as one is taking steps, as one is in that lineup in being given weapons, as they're going with the patterns of society in regards to the educational system, they question the substance of the knowledge and the path they're walking. So what that means is when every being is very, on some level, existentially very honest with themselves. And so what that means is if you're walking somewhere, you're aware. No one's stupid when they want to go to that party. Everyone becomes a genius, becomes amazing. You have Native American, intuitive abilities of coordination, and orientation. Because you have an intention of going to that party or something. Do you see? Let us look at it in this way, that life sometimes punches people. And when it punches people, it's pretty much waking you up based on the transition that is naturally happening. So when you are beginning to see that your reflection or who you thought you were is not just that, you're beginning to see the reflection in the mirror is not really you. You are something else looking at the mirror and seeing yourself. It's as if man was this collective gaze that looks at an individual object to keep it here. Do you know? But the minute we close our eyes, it seems the object in front of us is nowhere to be found. Human beings need to begin speaking about many thoughts they're having, which they think others are not having, but in a sense they are. So what that means is human communication must now advance to a point where the communication is innately more than it could ever be. So your actions are not by a self, but a selfless experiencer that is realizing and observing the transitory aspects of, I guess, manifestation. On some level, one finds that our inquiry, and especially our self-inquiry, if we give it voice, it can be cut up into 1,000 pieces. And those 1,000 pieces can be cut up into 1,000 pieces, and on and on and on. But if we begin to self-inquire silently through observance and stillness and just an awareness to what is here existentially, you begin to see that you prioritize yourself by the sense of the most healthiest act, which is the most openness and most free reality of projection. And so you see that in order for you to open your eyes in a new world, you need to at first let go of that self who could not escape in that world. And how you let go of it by realizing you were never that self. That self was the implication of your consideration of what was present to you in that moment. Man has an ability to forget things, but also to remember them timelessly, It's like that aspect of man which is forgetting could never forget. The awareness to that which is forgetting. Do you see? Shaken by immortal views, you shall find the beauty of this mortality to be found in the novelty of the unknown. Every being is a treasure revealer, and you must recognize that just like how people have different phones, people have different structures of thought and they're on different terraces. Not everyone is on the same terrace, but we must have an ability to observe the whole spectrum. What that means is you do not just need to be compassionate and get rid of all those terms that are suggesting someone is different from you in an objective way. You begin to see you are allowing the sounds that leave your mouth to be ones that are contributing to the clarity of mankind. Sometimes our silence means we're not talking rubbish when we don't need to. It was a very interesting moment for me, because when my existential sensitivity changed based on the experience I had, based on a direct experience I had in my life, I noticed that the difference was how I was accepting the world to be and the fluidity and the, I guess, fluency of that, in a sense. So what that means is reality for me was on some level could never be fixed, because I knew there was an unknown aspect to it. So my trust was just where I was. It was a very simple life. But this simplicity is kept by complexity. Because the nature of this world is that the minute we are associating to one side of the spectrum, the other side of the spectrum becomes the end of the journey. And once you have observed the whole thing, you are beyond it. What that means is, if you looked at your table, which had a lot of stuff on it, and you were looking for something, the intelligence of the view, literally how you're looking at your table, is much different than, for example, how an ant would see it if it was on your table moving between the stuff. Canyons will turn into the simplicity of small stones. Mountains will move the minute you're throwing it into that pond and it is jumping on the surface of the lake or the pond. Observe reality, for in doing so, you never forgot. The knowing is here. Through sincerity, you shall see yourself here as well. Much blessings and namaste.